Blog Talk Radio.
Please take all the necessary precautions to protect your constitution while listening to this broadcast. 3, 2, 1. Coming to you live via the internet. It's time for Rage Against the Regime. Let's get ready to rumble! Finally, a show for patriots, defending the Constitution and uncovering the truth at every turn, bringing you exclusive interviews and covering the topics the mainstream media doesn't dare to touch. Call in and join the discussion at 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. And now, here are your hosts, Bobby Who's the Man and Becky Williams. Rage Against the Regime.
I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yes, I am, yes, I am, yes, I am. I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man.
For some reason, our song is playing at a very low rate, so we'll just kill the song, and we will welcome you to Rage Against the Regime podcast. And of course, as always, I am your host, Bobby Who's the Man, and along with me, my trusty sidekick, as always, the Texas Vixen, Becky Williams. Hello, Becky. What's happening? What's happening? I can't understand you, Becky. I can't make out a word you're saying.
Yeah, Becky's connection is bad.
Yeah, you're whatever you're on is terrible. But while you're getting that fixed and getting that straightened out, just so everybody knows, tonight we are going to be simulcasted on Bank vs. You, and we're also going to be doing Mixler. As a special guest tonight, I've received a lot of emails, people asking me, hey, when are you going to bring him back on? Hey, when are you going to have that guy back on? Tonight we brought back Townson. I have to be brutally honest, you're number 2 on the list of people that have been, people have requested me to bring back on the show. Tom Luciu from Bunker Report would be the first one, but Townsend number 2. Hello, Shy.
Hello, good to be here. Good to be number 2.
Hey, you know what? We've had a lot of people on here, and we've had some repeat people. I've never had, we've never had the situation where people asked for, to have 2 people back on. I mean, I'm telling you, I could show you emails and stuff where people were like, this guy, he's so knowledgeable. He's this, he's that. When are you going to have Shy back on? I can't wait to have it, when you have him back on, and this and that. So here you are, back in the seat with us.
All right. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Well, this is what's going on. I wanted to bring you on to have a discussion about something a little bit different than the normal topics, that we usually cover, which would be, constitutional, the Constitution, anything patriotic, just your typical, political news and views and stuff like that. I wanted to go into a different realm and talk about things that people probably don't talk about very much because they don't know very much about it. And I think that a good place to start would be to talk about Edgar Casey. A lot of people, when they sit there and talk about predictions and stuff, the only name that you ever really hear about is Nostradamus. Most people don't even know who Edgar Casey is. So can you give us like a little breakdown of who he is and and everything?
Sure, I'll try. I'm never really good remembering exact names and dates, places, births and years and everything, but he was born in the latter half of the 19th century, I think around 1880 or so, give or take a few. He didn't really have much past an 8th grade education at best, but he did become to be known as America's version of Nostradamus. But really big difference in what he did and the existing records of what he left behind compared to Nostradamus' work. Now, to be clear, I very much buy into much of Nostradamus' work, even though dissenters point out nothing he ever predicted was ever the exact date and time or place and location. There was always something slightly off, and then there's the type of person says, well, you can shoot an arrow, and then once it hits, draw a target around it, meaning, you can kind of take from his predictions, which are the quatrains, and sort of, fit history into it. But that really wouldn't account for some of the predictions he was making that came true in his own time. So, it's really what you want to buy into. But let's put, later down the line now with Edgar Cayce, we're definitely talking about something much more measurable, something more greatly more accurate. And his work, Nostradamus produced what's known as the quatrains, like 100 lines of verses in 4, and they're done in a way that sort of hides the prediction in a mix of words, almost kind of like Shakespeare type of speak. And that was because he was looking to escape any type of persecution. He was during the time where the Catholic Church ruled, and if you did anything, that made the Catholic Church think you were a witch or a sorcerer, you were likely to be killed. So he had to hide his work, his predictions, and I'd say a large number of them have been fairly accurate enough to warrant definite credibility. Now, but still, very limited amount of work that survived. Extremely limited amount of work. Now, when we look at Edgar Cayce, again, a man with a very, very limited education, he left something like over 13,000 volumes of work from, all his readings, which were done as favors to, usually favors or as to help people. They were all being recorded, handwritten as he was doing it, and archived. And with all the names anonymous, they were given numbers and dates as opposed, to protect privacy purposes. But how he did this, he put himself in best way is like a trance-like state. His nickname was like the Sleeping Prophet. He was kind of like asleep. And to be clear, he wasn't conscious, the way we know consciousness, being awake while he's giving his readings. So, are you with me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. That was probably Becky trying to fix her mic.
Oh, okay. So he's put himself in a trance-like state, and in this state, he's not only accessing his own subconscious, which, if anybody knows anything about subconscious versus consciousness, or your normal brain, your subconscious is kind of like your soul's intelligence, and it's considered far greater and far deeper and more profound than anything, the 10% of the brain the average person uses in the physical realm. So it's a big deal. But moreover, he used that sort of access to access what's believed to be known as the Akashic Records, and that's where he was basically reading from or getting his information from. So it's not like he had this 8th grade education that translated into these earth-shattering readings that still survive today and ring true today, especially in the worlds of holistic medicine. He's just, for lack of a better term, the bomb. At any rate, so getting back to what he was doing, these Akashic Records he's accessing, you have to look at it, that's basically like the metaphysical mainframe that exists of all recorded time in our world, in our galaxy, so to speak, and the Milky Way, and our sphere of influence with the planet Earth and the Sun. Okay, it basically is the record of all past, present, and future. The Book of Life. The Egyptians had like the Book of the Dead or something, but this is like exists in like in a kind of like a computer mainframe or a metaphysical invisible book that sort of has all of everything recorded. Now, the reason why it knows that, because from the highest realm, like from God's point of view, time doesn't exist, and the cause and effect type of thing. Everything sort of just happens at once. That's sort of why we people that buy into the the deity thing, the God thing, which I do. The idea that he knows what our future is. Well, how do we cross that with the idea of free will, which we have? Well, like a fatalist point of view would be that, well, yeah, we have free will to choose what we want. The thing is, God just knows what we're going to choose every time. That's all. So, not a big road to block there. So, at any rate, you have these Akashic Records that exist, and he was believed to access these Akashic Records. And he developed this early on at a time when he had acute laryngitis, where he couldn't speak for a very long time, and he was sick. And it was during this time when he was sick that he first gave his own reading. Started giving these readings. He went into a trance-like state and started saying things. And one of his earliest readings was him giving the remedy to fix his own laryngitis, his own inability to not speak. It was, mostly household items, like honey and cinnamon, stuff like that type of stuff, the remedy to heal himself. And then, sure enough, when he was awake, he was told what he'd said while in the trance and tried the remedy, and he fixed himself. So that was sort of the beginning of onto something. And then along the way, as he was giving readings and it started becoming a known phenomenon, obviously you're going to attract the vulture types, the types that are going to want to use that for personal gain at the expense of others, and gamblers and such, and stuff like that would happen. Eventually, it's kind of like abusing a power, like a psychic ability or something when you abuse it. Now, he's not abusing it, but he was being asked questions while in a trance-like state he was giving answers to, but it was sort of going against the rules of the game, so to speak. Just like there's physical laws, there's metaphysical laws. So, when you start telling people how to gamble and how to predict the stock market and such, that's going to cause issues. So he started getting sick himself, and he actually quit doing his work for a long time. And and moved, and he was somewhere between Virginia. At one point, I think he lived in Illinois and other Midwestern states and the East Coast. At any rate, he eventually picked up the practice again. This time he did it right. He made sure either his wife or his assistant, forget the lady's name, who would write everything down, but his wife would always be there to ask the questions. In other words, be the go-between, the buffer, so that no one could ask questions that would be for ill-gotten gain purposes. So that actually helped serve them. And you got to understand, this is a very poor family. I mean, he could have been making more money. He was into photography and stuff, but he thought that his mission in life was to help others through this gift. Now, he'd be the first to say that any of us could do this too. He wholeheartedly believed it and said as much in some of his readings. But what it would require for the average person, person living in a materialistic world, to do that, to become that kind of, super soul, people just aren't willing to endeavor in that. And that's when we get into the whole line of enlightenment and Christedness and all that. So that's the big deal about Edgar Cayce. Like I said, there's volumes and volumes. There's a whole, a big research enlightenment center in Virginia dedicated to him. There's a really great documentary that you can find on YouTube. It's about 45 minutes long. That would give you a real good idea of what I just talked about as far as his background. And the reason why I like to talk about him is to establish some credibility on the importance of some of his other predictions that would come true posthumously after he died.
Let's talk about a few of them. Let's talk about some of the important ones.
Okay. Well,
did I read your mind? I pulled
no, I'm coming.
On you.
No, thanks, Bobby. I'm coming. I'm just freshening up my coffee here.
Okay.
Well, one of my favorite ones that I think is very relevant toward some of the other topics that hopefully we can maybe touch upon today is it's his prediction of the discovery of Nag Hammadi Library in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. Now, Edgar Cayce died the early half of 1945, and he said before he died that later that year of 1945, this discovery is going to be found. This basically something like the Dead Sea Scroll type of discovery, only these were codices, little books, in a big canister, like an earthen porcelain canister that was hidden in the ground, discovered by a farmer or something in Egypt, and it was filled with these books, these texts, considered Gnostic Gospels. A lot of them which were from the apostles that didn't make the cut for the Bible. In other words, those that aren't Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. At any rate, Cayce not only talked about that this was going to be discovered, but he indicated that the material found in this discovery is going to hold what's closest to the truth about Jesus and our spiritual past, regarding Jesus and what he really did for us. So basically what he's saying, and this is a God-loving / God-fearing man, Edgar Cayce. He was very much about promoting oneness with the Creator and the importance of Jesus. But I'd have to say, in his subconscious, I'm fairly certain he would give more credibility to the Gospels found in Nag Hammadi Library than any of the Gospels found in the New Testament, as far as where truth is at today. Mostly probably because the Bible's been, messed with so much over the centuries that we're just not really getting the truth. Now, the other thing about this Gnostic, these Nag Hammadi Library, this dates back probably to around burial of around 3rd, 4th, or 5th century. And one of the Gospels in particular, the Gospel of St. Thomas, that was found in there. That a lot of scholars today, including myself, believe that the words in that specific gospel are the closest we have to Christ's actual words. Closer than anything in the canon or any other material out there.
Right.
How are we doing? Can you hear me okay? I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know why you get feedback, but yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I'll roll up your window. It's cold out there. Okay, so at any rate, so he talks about the importance of this discovery, and in this Bible, in these Gospels, are words that we find closest to the truth of Christ, according to many scholars today, including myself. I've spent the better part of 2 years working on interpreting every single one of the verses. There's 114 verses that were found in the Gospel. A lot of them are messages that are sort of repeated, but in different form. Like all great orators, like the Shakespeare or the Nostradamus. It seems that Jesus did not speak in, just plain speak, but he spoke in analogy a lot as he was trying to teach his followers, the truth about this world and about themselves. And, because Christ, Jesus was a Christed being doesn't mean his followers were. So these are not enlightened beings, they might have been on their way to being enlightened, but, they had to start somewhere. And, just like when if you've ever been taught something that will essentially rock your world and change everything you've ever believed in before up until now, it's going to take a few times to be told something for it to sink in, right? So at any rate, when you go through this gospel and look at these verses, you definitely see a pattern. And much to, I would say, the chagrin of the Vatican, the peace-loving, love-spreading Jesus that they like to promote, yet sort of don't really act like in reality, we can see that Jesus was probably more of a fighter for human rights and against the establishment. He was probably more like the ultimate whistleblower. There's actually verses that say that he's come to basically cast fire upon the earth and rock this world, and because he knows what who's taken over. And yes, we're supposed to treat others as we want to be treated, but that doesn't mean that we're supposed to allow ourselves to be enslaved either. At any rate, it was very important work in this gospel. One of the ways we can perhaps tie it to something more contemporary that I like to always mention to people, if we've got any horror movie fans out there. There was a movie, I don't know, probably about 10 years ago or so out, 10 or 15 years ago, called Stigmata. I think an Arquette or a Fonda was in. I think Arquette was in it, Patricia Arquette maybe. But it's basically it was a highly stylized, Hollywood movie with the Passion of the Christ happening to this girl. The holes in the hands and the crown of thorns type of thing and the whips and stuff. That type. She was experiencing this. So that was kind of like what everybody saw in the movie. But really, the message in that movie, and it culminates at the end with some words at the end after the film is over. It talks about it a bit. But during the movie, it references the St. Thomas Gospel as the big threat to the Catholic Church, to the Vatican, because it teaches people that the church is within you, that the second coming of Christ is within you. See, Jesus' messages were commandeered a long time ago by the Council of Nicaea and the Romans, basically, to maintain power. When you have, I'm losing my train of thought here. So when you have when you have this idea of what you want people to think the message was and what the actual message was, you basically have very early conspirators. So they made sure that this book wasn't in the Bible, and it's because it taught people that they can find salvation within themselves, and so that would kind of put the Catholic Church out of business. You know what I mean? So if they don't need them, what's that?
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, man. I have a question for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm almost done here for my point. At any rate, so the idea is, all right, so what they basically sold everybody was this idea of the second coming of Christ. Well, two problems with that. One is Christ is not his last name. It's what he was. He was a Christed being. Okay, Christ is from the Christos. It's a Greek term, just like being enlightened or Buddha or Nirvana or heaven. It's all kind of the same principle. But they, all right, so if we look at the Bible and religion as social maintenance tools, okay, and it's a way of sort of governing people and, programming them and enslaving them without their knowledge, a la The Matrix, the movie The Matrix trilogy, okay, all right, and you tell them that the second coming of Christ is like this physical thing, that this hero is coming to save you from tyranny, right? People will put up with suffering. They will put up with the BS of the world because they think, that this hero is coming to save them. And that's not what it was. The second coming of Christ is metaphorical. The second coming of Christ is you and you and you and me. Okay? It's about being the Christed beings ourselves and taking the power of ourselves. See, that's this whole big joke about the word hope, the audacity of hope. You want to tie it into the politics? Obama did it beautifully with his book, The Audacity of Hope. It's this idea of putting the power without you, all right, and putting it somewhere else and having someone else come to save you because you're all the victim, all right? And I'm saying that Christ says, no, all right, you get up off your knees and you save yourself, and here are the tools and here are the way to do it. And then they crucify him and they take his message, they hide it, they jumble it, they create a religion out of it. They make sure that they take the power away from you and give it to themselves, at the time when only they could read. No one else could read a Bible at the time, all that story. And as they say, the proverbial say, the rest is history. But that's kind of a big deal of how we got to where we are today and the importance of this Gnostic library that was discovered in Nag Hammadi. But it's still, the church pretty much just kind of ignores it, doesn't make much comment about it. I know they've put in this latest pope that seems to say and do a lot of the right things. But, he says a lot of the right things and he does a lot of PR stunts. But as long as that Vatican is ensconced in gold and riches and countries like Ethiopia and poor exist, it's really just lip service, people. It really is. Okay? All right, what do you got?
Okay, so basically what you're saying that is Christ is not who we think he is, that we've been brainwashed by books, by men who created religion.
Becky, your headset, if you're wearing a headset, take it off.
I'm not.
You sound like the Peanuts. You sound like the Peanuts. You sound like the teacher from the Peanuts. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing Becky. If you can hear what she's saying and then repeat the question to me, Bob, that would help.
She'll fix it right now. She's here. Go ahead, Becky. Becky. Jesus Lord. You know what? We came to the conclusion that she needed a mic and a headset because her phone wasn't amplifying her properly. Now, I guess the headset, I mean, it's been doing good and she's been fine with it, but now it sounds like something's loose or I don't know, but maybe she should just unplug the damn thing and then, just talk on the phone regular. I know that, she doesn't, she gets a lot of problems with the NSA. I mean, the NSA, they love to play them games, man, with her. I mean, she's went through a lot of crap, and we've had 2 shows that they completely took all of our audio.
Yeah.
The NSA took 2 of our shows and took the audio and said, you guys can't have it. What the hell?
Yeah, I've seen that before. They get that a lot with Veritas Radio. I've listened to some stuff where they'll just sit there and I don't know if it's the NSA or what entity's doing it, but something out there is doesn't like the information being spread.
Yeah, right. Well, Becky, what were you saying now?
Asking, one of my concerns is that you believe that the Bible man is not actually the message of Christ, but the message of man who created religion, and that Christ will be the second coming. What do you think about that?
If you have the headset on, take the fucking thing out. Just remove it completely. You know what? Call in from your other phone if you can.
Yeah, because I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, call back and call in from your other phone. Because it's terrible. I mean, it's like we can't make out what heads or tails out of what you're saying at all. So just call back from another phone and just, rehost it. I know that she's, I know it's going to be something, to do biblically, because I got that much out of what she was saying, but... Yeah,
I could hear that too. That's about it, though.
Yeah, right? That's okay. Yeah. Jim, do you got anything? Do you got a question? All right, he's probably just going to stay down low.
Now, can you tell if anyone's trying to call in or anything? Is there anybody trying to call in?
She's manning the board. Becky's manning the board, so...
To me off.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I can hear him.
I'm curious. Okay, I'm going to present my question again to Chai. Chai, so basically what you're saying is this, and please correct me if I'm incorrect. Maybe I didn't understand your point, but I'm asking you, is your point this, that the Bible, written by man, religion created by man, is actually a means of brainwashing or psyops, if you will, control over people's hope, if you will, and that there is no second coming of Christ, and he was not the Son of God, as stated, and so on and so forth. Is this what I am to believe?
No, I didn't mean it that way.
Okay.
I definitely think he was, the quote unquote Son of God, so to speak. I like to refer to the Great Father.
Yes.
There's a mistake there. There's more than one God. I mean, that's evident by the Bible itself. You look at the Old Testament, you're looking at one kind of God, and then you look at the New Testament, and you're looking at a different God. And that's why Christ brought us the prayer of the Our Father, so we can teach that. Now, again, this is expressly put in the Thomas Gospel. But they asked him, how should we pray? Who should we pray to? Or how should we pray?
Well, David stated in
when should we pray? Well, let me finish. And he said, you shouldn't, because you don't know who you're praying to. And then he taught them how to pray to the right God. I'm saying that, look, if Jesus comes back again, great, I'm all for that. I'm saying that I don't think it would be like that. But there is, there is Gnostic scripture and belief, and even Edgar Cayce himself has said that Christ's essence, his soul, could very well be the same as Adam's, from Adam and Eve, and that's like the reincarnation of a build-up. Whether that's true or not, it's not really important. That could also mean that all energy is connected. It's a unified field theory. We all have souls that touch each other. There's a lot to be interpreted there. What's that?
Okay. I get what you're saying. I
But to be clear, though, the whole Christ thing, though, is very much about us being Christed. Okay, it's us
being Christ-like. We are to be Christ-like, and that's right. Why I had the question.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, what is a point that I would like to make? Many artifacts are skeletons. Armenia, Iran, Iraq, over in the Middle East, have been found over the years, and they are gargantuan in size, and they are human remains. They're human skulls. They're footprints. There's evidence biblically. It speaks of the fallen angels and that they crossbred with humans. Biblically, that is in line with the Bible. Okay, because it solidifies or validates the fact that those fallen angels did walk on this earth. And most probably we still have, in my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, I don't want anybody to misunderstand this, and it's based only on the little bit of research that I've done, we most likely still have descendants of those inhabitants that walk among us today. And with that said, I believe that the media has refused to cover this because, A, it's very hard to wrap your psyche around as a human being and to receive that and digest it. But, two, it would validate biblical text, which would thereby invalidate the theory of evolution. What is your opinion on that?
Okay. That's great stuff, and I'm glad you asked all that because that's all stuff I'd like to touch upon. So let's keep that question in mind because you asked me about 3 or 4 different questions within that question, and I like that. What you're talking about specifically is the Nephilim that's mentioned in the Bible, and the other Book of Enoch, I think, is a big thing on that didn't make the Bible but should have. And then, the whole thing about evolution, because I definitely got something for you there. But to start off, to sort of preface what I'm going to talk about to answer your question, I want to keep in mind, and I know this is not necessarily the Texas way, but I don't put a lot of faith in the Bible as far as credibility of reference. It's just it's not that it doesn't have truth in it. It's full of all sorts of great stuff. All sorts of great stuff. There's a lot of contradiction. But really what you're looking at is a book that is the catalog, the advertisement catalog for mind control for it's the biggest book in our world recorded history. The first thing mass produced, everything else. Okay? So and then this is coming at a time when the Catholic Church, the Vatican ruled the world. Popes were in charge, were above kings and queens for a long time. And so when something didn't go their way, they merely altered the Bible to make sure that it sounded like, well, this is God's word, so you can't question it. So you just got to be careful relying on a text that is just at the very least highly inaccurate. Okay, and then at most purposely and nefariously intended to kind of keep us in circles. All right, so that's why we have to look at alternative sources, okay, and look at the sources that do get preserved. Nag Hammadi was hidden for a reason. Okay, they know that this work was going to be burned, and they were going to get killed if it was found. So they had to hide it, literally, for posterity's sake. And there's no accident when things are found when they are. Okay, I think the universe kind of has a plan, and there's always the good versus evil. But, you know, I like to think that was kind of what we had, and it was found when it was needed to be found. Okay, had it been found in the 16th century, chances are it would have been burned, because any people that were running the world, or even the conspiracy theorist types out there, probably wouldn't have been in position to ever get a hold of it. Okay, so we're very fortunate to get it to, you know, like we did. Now, your question about giant skeletal remains. You mentioned a lot of countries, but probably the biggest country to have most discoveries is right here in the United States. Yeah, we're in Illinois especially. It's a big one in Illinois. There's mound builders and all sorts of stuff's been discovered. What you're looking at, and I don't know if I don't pay attention to much mainstream media, so I don't know if anybody is aware of it, if any of our listeners are. But I just had some articles come through my desk that said that the Smithsonian, by pressure, you know, by federal court order, finally admitted that, yeah, they had a bunch of, you know, remains of giant skeletons from dating back from the past 200 years or so that they discovered here in our country, and that they would routinely get them and either destroy them or put them somewhere where nobody can get or find out about them for purposes to manipulate the origins of our history. So there's a lot. So they just came out and did it. Now, my guess is, though, since they were forced to admit this, you know, Smithsonian's a pretty big deal. And the people that run the world, like the people that control most of the mainstream media outlets, are going to make sure this isn't front page news, so to speak. So it would be the alternative media outlets, the smaller ones, that would probably make note of it and make an article of it or whatever and say something. But obviously with little fanfare. So the lie can go on, and legal stature satisfied. You know, it's you know, more of the old, same of the new. At any rate, what you're looking at with that, best I can say is it's not angels that came down, not fallen angels, none of that. That's just kind of the, you know, the biblical interpretation of it. Really, we're probably talking about aliens. Aliens that, you know, not all aliens look like the Greys or reptilians. There's lots of aliens that look very human-like and reproduce and have sexual intercourse very similar to the way we do. Okay, so you also got to think that no matter where you are in the universe, if you're of primitive knowledge or of limited knowledge and abilities, and something else lands on your planet by any other way of technology that you don't know about, and you call them God, is that entity going to argue with you? So it's easy to see, like, how, you know, if it was some type of aliens coming down and creating this, which would make more sense once I get into the reasons why I don't think it could be angels. But, you know, it's easy to identify them and call them gods or angels. The whole wing thing, that's something we kind of added on through artistic rendition. Really, you know, if you really look at the history of angels and stuff, they really weren't like, you know, with wings, so to speak. That's more of a man-made thing. But anyway, that's not important. Okay, so we have to get back to angels as perfect beings, enlightened souls, you know, metaphysical beings. They're not of flesh. Okay, so right away you've got a problem there. All right, you're talking about an ephemeral being, something that's, you know, that doesn't have physical dimension the way we know it. So you're going to tell me that that thing's going to come. Okay, so all right, so you can make the argument maybe it came into human form. All right, fine, maybe, but let's just shelf that idea. I don't know if you ever idea with this, but there's the split, the nature of the split. That we, with the fall came the split. The whole reason why we're always searching for that other person to complete us. It's because as a perfect being, you're androgynous. There's no male or female genitalia. Okay, that's what an angel is. There's a joke about it in the movie Dogma, kind of a funny movie about 15, 20 years ago, that, the angel Gabriel comes and, the woman he comes to visit thinks she's going to get raped, and he's laughing at, oh, please, knocks on, he's got like a smoothie, kind of like a Ken doll or something. There's nothing there, okay? So, again, how are they going to reproduce with human females and, to make these giants? Now, if you look at it from the form of aliens coming down that have physical presence, that can mate, that can, find beauty in that and physically do stuff like that, and then have this different kind of DNA crossbred with the human DNA that bastardizes into some kind of giant race. Okay, so now let's put it all together. Let's connect the dots. All right? So now this would suggest, if true, would suggest the whole angel theory, which is largely a big thing of the church's weapons against control, to tell you, hey, be careful, the angels are watching you. Not to say that there aren't angels. I truly believe the whole angelic system exists, and they're there for us. But I'm just saying it's not them that created the giants. Okay? I'm saying that it's just been used to kind of
Sorry about
cover.
that. The system completely booted you. What do we got?
Me?
Yeah.
Me? It booted me?
No, I'm
no.
on. You're on.
Okay, no, it booted somebody. Holy cow.
Okay, because I've been talking the whole time, and I hope I don't have to repeat it.
No, not you. Somebody else.
Jim got booted.
All right, no big deal. We'll get to the calls. You know what? We got callers online, and I was actually trying to screen a caller, and what it's doing is the system kept booting people, and I was trying to say it was actually an accident, and I went in to screen a call, and it didn't actually allow me to screen the person. It just went ahead and booted them. So from the 731 area code, we're completely sorry about that. It completely booted you. So who do we have, 731?
733.
Yogi there.
Hey, Yogi, you got a question for a brother?
Well, I've got a comment about the angels.
Okay, brother.
Where in Deuteronomy it says that the Malaks came down and went into daughters of mankind and brought forth fruit and caused giants in the land. So is that a misrepresentation or a wrong saying in Deuteronomy? That because from you they don't have any organs to reproduce, but yet in Deuteronomy it says that angels did come down and did go into, found favor into women found favor in their eyes of regular women and did go unto them and produced giants.
Yes.
So is that wrong in Deuteronomy, or?
It's a semantics thing. I'd say that that's probably what happened, but again, I don't think it's angels as the way we understand angels. Okay,
well,
angels.
But
I mean, you're basically, saying that God's, the Great Father's army of special beings are going to come down and rape our women. All right, and I just,
no, they didn't rape them. It doesn't say that
I know
them.
they took form, but look, I know that the word rape is also maybe an unfortunate term, but if they took a form that wasn't true to who they really were, then they were not being honest. They're being deceitful, And in a sense, yes, that's a form of rape when you're not misrepresenting who you are and who you're allowing into your bedroom. Okay, so yeah, it kind of is. But what I'm saying is that it can't. The story could be true itself. Just take the word angel out and put the word alien race in the same. Okay, that's all. The story's probably very, very accurate. As far as the grand scheme goes, and a little specifics here and there is probably off.
They would be considered aliens to us, but I don't believe in little green monsters.
No, I don't think that.
Maleks would be an alien to us because they're not of our race, but they can make any form they want to.
I agree. But there's also evidence and theories to suggest there's alien races that have shape-shifting abilities. But what I'm suggesting is that there must be 100 different ethnicities or thousands of different ethnicities on the Earth alone. Okay, so now we're looking at a multi-universe of billions of planets. So my point is that there's going to, in my guesstimation, and for my research to validate it, but again, it's not unless I can only say I know something as if I actually experienced, if I touched that alien myself, and I didn't. But what I did do is spend enough time doing the research and looking at this to come to the conclusion that it would indeed be an alien of another planet that would probably have similar features to us, not the little green space types, okay, or the grays. And that's a threatening race. That's something I would want to talk about too in a little bit, because they seem to be the ones that people's come to mind first and foremost, and they are a big deal. But no, I'm saying such races like the Nordiques that come from the Palladius, the blondes, the very attractive race of people. Maybe again, it's a DNA mixture thing to cause that type of giganticism. All right, so I'm saying that this is what frustrates me is, I mean, people have these beliefs and ideas of what God and angels are as far as non-physical things, and the idea of them being alien, technically alien because they're not from this terraformed planet. Yeah, okay, that makes sense too. I'll buy that. But I'm saying that it's highly unlikely the giants of this planet came as some holy alliance of the angels from the Great Father and our female human beings here on Earth. I just have a really tough time. My evidence, my research does not support that. You might find someone else that will give you that, but I can't see that.
Hey, Shai, let me interrupt you guys for a second. Let me give out the phone number. We have a lot of people online and a lot of callers, and I want to give out the phone number so we could try to fill up the phone line a little bit more and get more people involved, because we have a lot of people that want to ask questions. So let me give out the number, 929-477-3565. Phone number is 929-477-3565. Anybody that has a question, please make sure you press that number 1. I see a couple of you online have pressed that number 1 and you have a question. Anybody else that has any questions, please press that number 1. And sorry, go ahead, gentlemen.
Well, I also myself, I guess I kind of have it hard to believe that, of course, there's things out there that we're not meant to know. If it was me being spiritually, anyways, I believe that it would have been revealed to us. But there are things out there that are not meant for men to know. If it was meant for us to know, then it would have been wrote down in history and shown to us, I believe. But I don't disbelieve that people have seen other beings, far as Maleks or angels, as people call them, may have came and visited people in another form or whatever and showed their self and things like that. I don't have a problem believing that. I do have a problem believing that there is another world somewhere else with that the Creator didn't create, and that there's another race of people somewhere else that on another world like ours that just comes and visits us and has the technology to the speed of light to just come and visit us. I would
I think you got some good points there, Yogi, that's for sure. You know what? We appreciate you calling, brother. I just want to get some other people in here. But you know that we appreciate you calling us all the time, and we're glad that that you always listen and that you always join us.
Okay, thank you, Bobby and Becky.
Yeah, and we're going to try to later on, if we get a chance, we'll plug your GoFundMe page too. I'll remember that.
Okay, I would appreciate it.
All right, brother. Have a good night, and I'll put you on hold so you can listen.
Y'all too.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, from the 254 area code, who do we have?
You have Wilbur. Good afternoon.
Hey, Wilbur. Welcome aboard, sir.
I'm listening and learning. I was late getting in. I apologize, but I'd like to interject. I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm enjoying the show. Thank you very much. My son's in the Navy, and one thing he told me one time, a long time ago, the world is a very large place, and there are things that we haven't figured out. And I think one of the dramatic proofs of this is, you remember that first plane that got lost flying out of Indonesia?
Yeah.
First.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody, oh my God, they've got black boxes and they got radar and they got this, they got that, but they still lost the plane. And the plane did not get teleported to another planet. It went down somewhere in the ocean, and it's a big place. But I do agree, there are things in this planet that we don't understand. With deep sea exploration, we have found creatures and forms of life that don't make any sense at all, that live off of hot sulfur and stuff like that. So we don't know what's out there and don't know what clicks. And then that's about all I've got. I'm learning as I'm listening, gentlemen. I'm kind of ignorant of this.
Well, sounds like you're picking it up pretty quick.
Well, thank you.
Sounds pretty good.
I think one thing, I think that mankind is older than what a lot of people think. Excuse me, and I think that they assume that the ancients, when people study the ancients, people assume they're stupid. Well, they didn't have television, didn't have iPods, they must be stupid. No, they weren't stupid. They invented algebra, they traversed the oceans, they figured out the constellations. We still have skulls with holes in them that were healing, where they actually did brain surgery. And I'll tell you one story, and then I'll shut up. A long time ago, I knew a doctor, and he was talking to me informally one time at the country club. And he told me, he said, the oldest novel in the world is the Saga of Sinaway, an Egyptian doctor. And it was a novel, but it was we deduce it must be based on something real. Dr. Sinaway was a doctor to the Pharaoh. He got very wealthy. He got into the society of Egypt, and he hooked up with a Babylonian woman who had a big house and threw parties all the time. He got in over his head. He began to give her money. After he gave her money long enough, he began to get broke. He actually cashed in his mother and father's insurance burial policy and gave her that money. And the minute he didn't have any more money, the slaves threw him out in the street. So he goes and tells his mother and father what he did. They promptly commit suicide, and he had to go to work in the house of the dead in order to even embalm his parents, which he snuck into the Valley of the Kings and buried. Then he went traversing all over Egypt and the Middle East, and he began to cure things and work his way back up. He ended up back in Egypt. First off, he helped kill the Pharaoh, and a Pharaoh called Horemheb, I believe, took over, who was a friend of his, okay? And during his saga, he had his office set up again. He was doing quite well, and this woman showed up in a black robe, kind of a burqa-looking thing, said, I have a malady and I can't find a cure. He said, open your robe, and I will look. And she opens her robe and gets naked, and he tells her, I can cure your malady, but I cannot cure the scars you already have. And he describes the malady in detail. Then he reaches and it's a little vial of something which she drinks, and it relieves the malady and cures it. Now, we know from his description she had herpes simplex. Dr. Sinaway cured it, and to this day, we don't know what he gave her. We don't know what in the world Dr. Sinaway gave that woman to cure herpes because we don't have it.
Yeah. Well, I never heard that story before. I don't know what to comment on that, but I would that would be a good one to look up. Edgar Cayce was real big on natural remedies and for healing, not just bandaging stuff. The mainstream medicine says there's no cure for cancer. I happen to know that's not true. So I don't know where we're at with herpes, but last I checked, I don't know of any mainstream cures or any really special cures either. So.
My dad had throat cancer in 1974. He was an old Cajun. He had throat cancer, and the doctors gave him like 3 weeks. It was bad. They sent him home. He took his radiation, all that. He died 16 years later by drinking whiskey and pouring the whiskey on the cancer. And it's no lie. He poured whiskey on the cancer. He drank whiskey, and he dipped snuff. And finally, the tumor finally grew enough where he did die after 16 years. We don't know what herbs will cure this or cure that, but we do know with the impurities that we have in our food today, it will cause cancer. I know a mortician friend of mine, Leon, who joked with me one time. He said, when I got in this business, we had to take a body and pump it full of formaldehyde and everything else. He says, Billy, I'm going to tell you the truth, man. With Mrs. Baird's bread and Big Macs and everything, I get bodies sometimes that I wouldn't have to put anything in. They're already preserved when they roll in the door with so many things in our food now. It's that bad. It's that bad.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's my wisdom for today. I'm going to listen to y'all's show now because, like I said, I'm learning. Hey, Becky, are you there?
She actually went to the bathroom. She'll be back in a second. She said,
okay, well, tell her I made it, and I am here, and I'm going to put y'all on mute so you don't have to hear me drink and smoke, and I want to listen to your show. Very interesting show, young man. I'm enjoying it very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Wilbur. Thanks for joining us again, brother.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. I'll put him on hold. Right. Wilbur's he's a regular with us, and he's a friend of Becky's. Very nice guy. Just like we got a ton of people that listen to us on a daily basis, and like to chime in. Before we go to any other calls, I want to start talking about some other things here. You guys started talking about. She started talking about elephants and them being big, and then I actually wanted to talk about giants. You sent me something the other day that I really, really enjoyed, and it was a really, really good read, and, about them finding, skeletons and bodies and stuff like that, and you and I had a little conversation, that we both came to the agreement that we believe that there are still people that might be, I'm not going to use the word giant, I might use the word Bigfoot, per se, Sasquatch, something in that realm, that there might be beings like that are, out in the wilderness somewhere, because, they find prints and they find, skeletons and skulls and stuff like that. What do you think about that? I mean, I know that you feel the same way that I do, but how do you feel that they're actually able to hide from us and stuff, and people not being able to find them? I mean, look at all these TV shows they got. There's 100 of them, and it seems like nobody's ever actually came up close to one, but they have a lot of pictures of them.
Yeah. Well, I think with you and I agree that, I like to think we're open-minded about it, and just try and look a little closer at the evidence and try and look past the initial wave of dissent and try and take a closer look. Without resources, laboratories, and everything. I mean, there's limited work as a scholar what I can do, but a lot of work through research and compare and contrast. And the big thing about research, a good researcher, not only do you have to when you're looking at studies and things that you're going to cite as offer for credibility and proof, you always got to look at who sponsored these studies, who conducted these studies, and whenever you're looking at big corporations and stuff with agendas, you really got to question the study itself. And that's not to say that smaller special interest groups that conduct the same study and come up with opposite conclusions don't have an agenda too and try and do that. So really what you look for is trends and then using your own discernment that you develop over time. Your BS sniffer. So it's something that takes time to develop. It's not something I can point you at a few websites or books or whatever and tell you go listen, go read that, and you're going to know everything. No, it's the start. Okay, it's the start of one rabbit hole after another. How far you want to go down each one, how much time you want to spend is up to you. I personally like to jump around a lot. Certain subjects I spent more time on than others. The ones that I deemed as the most important, such as, the Thomas Gospel and the work of Christ. But getting back to the fun subject of Bigfoot and giants. Okay, I just to prepare for this show, I did some last-minute research just to see where the latest trends are, as far as the alternate media and the researchers out there, and kind of where they're at now to this day with their ideas about this phenomena. Gentleman I listened to today in an interview. I'm going to pull up his name so I get it right. But it was on Veritas Radio by the interviewer's name is, the guy that gives the interviews on Veritas is Mel Fabregas. You can find him on Facebook or online, veritas.com. Great stuff. I mean, just a library of interviews of just the best work. Think of, basically an army of guys like me, only 10 times smarter. Guys and girls just like me, only 10 times smarter. Okay, at any rate, let me see here real quick what his name was so you know it. Jordan Hofer. Okay, Jordan Hofer. So he was one of the latest to be interviewed by Veritas, and he discussed some of his opinions on Bigfoot and giants and aliens too, the Greys in specific, which I want to touch upon afterwards. At any rate, a good point he brought up, to be clear about the difference now. There have been giant skeletal human-like remains found all over our country, all over North America for quite some time, maybe not as much in recent years, as most of it was already dug up and taken away by the Smithsonian and, everything hidden. But there's all sorts of old-time 1800, early 1900 articles scattered throughout our country in small towns that when the stuff first gets discovered, pictures taken, old archive, newspaper material that will test. I mean, sure, 5 people, it's a joke. Hundreds, no, that's there's fire where that smoke is, So, at any rate, but this guy made an excellent point today. He said that there's never been any Bigfoot fossil remains that would fit the Sasquatch image that we know of, and that's been found in North America. Okay, so, but then he countered that if you want to go like the completely open-minded view, he said, well, maybe they became real adept at hiding, doing away with their remains. Now, I kind of want to jump on that. But before we go there, let's look at some previous work and some previous famous images or video taken. I think everybody that's ever looked at the Bigfoot phenomenon has seen that one video where there's like this big, it's been dismissed as a guy in an ape suit and as a big hoax, where he sees that he's being noticed, turns away, and starts walking away. Okay? And he walks in a way that doesn't seem ape-like. Well, all right, so what? So it's not ape-like. Well, we're not saying Bigfoot is an ape. So they all say it's a man in a suit, and there's even been people that come forward saying, I perpetrated that hoax, and then that was eventually debunked, that person didn't actually perpetrate it. I know there's going to be a lot of controversy on this, but one of the researchers I saw that made a great point that really looked at this video, and it was either Lloyd Pye, who's now deceased, or a disciple of Lloyd Pye, or someone that was influenced by his work. But what he did was he had this video examined and closely looked at, and you know, with modern technology, you can kind of look at stuff now and really see. And what he brought up was that when blown up and looked really closely, that not only is that not an ape suit that being is wearing, but it's actually fur, and the muscular tone from the glistening from the sunlight, because this is a daytime video shot, okay, you can see the muscular build of this creature that was not, you know, congruent to a human, okay, in an ape suit. So, you know, and then to determine what his movements are going to be like. Well, his movements were very intelligent, like shunning, realizing he's being spotted, and walking away, like an intelligent being would. And he didn't dart away like an animal mind would. He just kind of, all right, you caught me, I'm getting out of here really quick, just don't look at me, type of thing. All right, so we're looking at a fully haired being that has some kind of intelligence. So are they, and if they know that they've been hunted or consider the humans their enemy, and they've been around a long time, it is reasonable to know that maybe they become sharp enough to realize that they can't leave their fossil remains buried in the ground to be discovered, because then they'll know where they exist, or it can be easier, you know, found easier, or proof of them. So maybe they've been around long enough to know, or maybe they already had ancient customs on how to do away with their remains. I'm not saying this is how they do it, but there is a movie called Snatch by Guy Ritchie, starring Brad Pitt, in which filmed like in England or Ireland or something, where like the English mobster in that, you know, if he killed you, he fed you to the pigs, to his pigs, his pet pigs.
Right.
His pigs ate everything.
I remember that movie.
Yeah, remember that movie? They ate the bones, they ate everything. So, you know, for all we know, these bones are being eaten, you know, and to make sure there's no evidence. I don't know. But there's been enough out there, you know, and too many testimonies. I mean, just let alone the thousands of people that go missing in our national parks on a regular basis. Yet, you know, the government doesn't seem to want to keep a database on these people. It's all very strange. I don't dismiss any of it. I would let my imagination run wild with that one a little bit, because that is a mystery. But I will not say there's no such thing as Bigfoot. On the contrary, I'm leaning toward that they probably are around. Now the giants, I'm certain of. You know, that really fits in much nicer with everything, and that's mentioned a lot more in ancient texts. I mean, ancient texts don't speak a lot about Bigfoot, so to speak, but not the ones I looked at anyways. But the giants, yeah, that's talked about a lot, and they're the great mound builders. I think they still exist today too. I've looked at literature research that suggests that they're kind of on certain remote islands in the world and parts of countries that, seem so remote or some uninhabitable, and that's kind of where they're at now. They kind of, move to the parts of the earth that, regular human beings sort of stay away from or don't really inhabit. And this would probably go along with the lines of ogres too, which ogres, a lot of ancient texts suggest that they were real, as well as centurions and, half-breeds and sphinx and all that stuff. I'd say, at the very least, there's a grain of truth in a lot of that stuff, as far as experimentation. I think it was your first caller that, brought up the idea that, ancient man wasn't dumb at all. Not only do I agree to that, but I'd say that, if anything, we've devolved and that we're actually dumber than a lot of ancient man. But there was a big spike in intelligence, okay? We the idea that we invented algebra and built the pyramids and understood astronomy like that overnight, no, I think a lot of that was maybe algebra, but a lot of were gifts given to us by alien races, or, that might have spawned the Atlanteans or ancient stuff like that. Edgar Cayce is very clear about where the history of the archives, the remains, the books, the scriptures of the Atlanteans, the history. There were at least 3 different places, and one of them is under the Sphinx's paw, which, they didn't even know there was an empty chamber or something underneath there, and then geologists and scientists came and they found there was, and then there was a whole government thing where government Egypt wasn't going to allow it, but then they put up a big canvas around so nobody could see, and sure enough, the powers that be got a hold of it, because, again, the people that run this world don't want us knowing our true history and where we came from and what our lineage is. And so there you go. I think the other part was somewhere in the desert, either in the Sahara or maybe Ethiopia or something, but I forget. But the neat one is underneath the Sphinx's paw, and you see that a lot.
Well, you know what? I want to actually ask you. When it comes to people talking about angels and stuff like that, I mean, the more that I read into it, in the beginning I was thinking it was a bunch of malarkey and whatever, and the more I read into it, the more I say, why not? I mean, I'm a firm believer that there's life on other planets, no doubt about it. If we're here, why can't somebody be up there? Why can't they be on a planet if we're on a planet? And we have the technology to go into outer space and, so on and so forth. Why can't they do it? I was reading something it was about a month ago that led me to believe that aliens might be or angels might be aliens, or I don't know, whichever way, I don't know which way you could go with it. But what do you think about that?
Well, in the literal sense, as far as the definition of what an alien is, there's 2 kinds of definition. One, there's the alien, the immigrant not to this country, and then there's the alien not to this planet. And so in the sense that was the angel or God or, born on this planet, no. So that makes them, by definition, alien to this planet. So that's kind of where that comes in. But I think what you're kind of really asking me is the confusion with the Bible scriptures and all with the whole Ancient Aliens program,
right,
the History Channel,
right,
and that whole thing, the difference between angels and aliens. Are they the same? Have we been fooled? Were there never such thing as angels? Was it always just aliens? Or was it always just angels and there were never aliens? And I'm telling you, there's both. There's both, and there's confusion of both. I'd say that a lot of credibility given to angels in the past, or messengers of God, were probably just like the Ancient Aliens show, aliens, literal aliens.
Right.
But when it comes to, the guidance of, the moral compass of man, the essence, our hearts, our souls, the metaphysical world that what really makes human beings so special, and why, all these aliens care so much about us, whether, in a bad way or a good way. The point is they're giving us a lot of attention, be it abductions and, making babies and all that stuff. And there's a reason. I mean, yes, we are special, and that is more based on the angel part, or more to say the Christed part, the Great Father, our true lineage, the idea that we are spiritual beings first, and humans second. We're not bodies that happen to have a soul. We are souls that happen to be occupying a body right now. So there's that whole thing. We're just looking at, I guess, the biggest difference between angels and aliens is dimensions or planes of existence.
Right.
Fields are good, planes are bad. Remember that.
Yeah. Hey, this is all I know. Bible says that we were created in God's perfect image. He didn't say some of us. He said we were created in His perfect image. Right? That means God is one badass cougar. I'm telling you right now, he's hot.
Yeah. And if you take that in reverse, Becky, that also suggests that we can all chemically change ourselves to become like God, because obviously we've been infected along the way, the fall, whatever you want to call it, the bite of the apple. I think that's more metaphorical. But, there's your devolution. There's how we've devolved. We've come away from our true spiritual heritage and become this bastardized version of being,
right.
Where we're all killing each other and just, trying to survive to the next century.
Interesting
get back
statement,
to that image.
Brother. Interesting statement. You mentioned, and it is written about the apple, and that's a metaphor. It probably wasn't actually an apple, but it was the fruit of the forbidden tree, which devolved us. It was a devolution, if you will. And if people that are listening look at the definition of devolution, D-E-V-O, not D-E-V-I, it's D-E-V-O. Here is a very interesting fact that popped into my mind when you said that. Don't you find it extremely odd that Monsanto and its creators are actually changing our genetic makeup in our flesh by genetically changing our food source, which we need to thrive on, i.e. the apple? And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good stuff there. This segues brilliantly. This segues brilliantly with a great point. No, thank you. It segues brilliantly with what I want to really. How much time do we have, Bobby?
36 minutes.
About 37 minutes, something like that.
Okay, good. We got this is an important part. This is really what I want to talk about, because she segues nicely for me here. All right, we're going to talk about these grays. These gray aliens with the almond-shaped eyes, these nefarious beings that are probably largely responsible for most of the abductions and, carving us up and, and injecting babies and everything. This goes in line with the Gnostic belief system, the Sophian Gnostic, to be clear. That's the branch of Gnosticism that buys into Mary Magdalene as the Christed female. Okay, thing is, females are very important in the spiritual world and in our world in general. It's the men that went and messed everything up over the past couple thousand years. It's the women that are really if you want to use the word hope, there's where it is. Okay, but at any rate, let's get to what I want to talk about. All right, so what is it about humans? What is it so special? Well, this soul that we have is, okay, to be clear, our souls are our metaphysical makeup is not all ours. Okay, it's a microcosm of the universe, meaning we've got pieces of everything. You know, there's the devil, there's the demers, there's the God, there's this, there's that, and we have a microcosm of it all. And what we choose to grow within us, the fruit, you know, the seeds that we grow, whether it be bad, good, indifferent, is the person we become over time. All right. But what the idea is there's a karma about us that does reincarnate, but it's not, you know, Bobby Who's the Man or Becky Williams that reincarnates. Okay, there's a karma of you. There's a piece of your soul based on, you know, this current work and your previous lifetimes that reincarnates. But when you reincarnate, you become a new name. Okay, so you're no longer Becky Williams in the next lifetime. Okay, and the idea is to basically you look at our world and the spiritual world as the ultimate four-year institution. You know, college or high school or whatever, 4 years. You know, a metaphysical 4 years, which let's call it now. What's the average age of human? About 70 years old. Okay, so we have this 70 years here to kind of evolve and wake up and become Christed being. Well, how are we doing so far? Well, the earth isn't overpopulated with Christed beings. It's overpopulated with quite the opposite. Let's face it, right? Okay, and I speak for myself too. All right, I'm far from a Christed being. But what I'm giving you is that according to Gnostic scripture from the Gospels, which came from Christ and Mary Magdalene's own words, okay, is a unique opportunity because the process of a soul's journey to become that heightened being again to its lineage, to return to where the real God is, the real Great Father, you have to go through a process. And when you are not in the human form and you're like either a ghost or a metaphysical entity, that process is greatly slowed, greatly retarded, and you could exist thousands of, millennia, millions without ever doing it. So, in other words, your time here, now, to be clear, forever is a long time to a soul. So, 70 years here on Earth as a human is like a blink of an eye to a soul, what a blink of an eye is to us as humans. So, they get this chance to be here, and how are we going to spend that time? Well, most of us, birth, school, work, death. And that's it. Where's the spiritual pursuit? Where's the chance of enlightenment? You hear about a lot in Eastern culture, because they weren't as commandeered by nefarious forces like, Rome did to Europe and the West. So we don't have that as where we think going to church saves us every Sunday, because again, that puts the hope in someone else's hands, your local church. That takes the power out of you and puts it into someone else's hands. Okay? So the point is, it's a big deal to be human, and the rest of the universe knows that. Okay? Because that's how souls graduate. All right? And souls aren't graduating. And so what we're seeing is a population explosion. Now we're up to, 7 billion on this planet? It's because we're not graduating. It's because the people that run this world took control of the school and basically changed the literature, made sure that we're not studying for the right test, and we're all ending up with Fs to make sure we keep coming back. Okay? And they do that by, usually by temptation and material, sex, drugs, rock and roll type stuff. The idea that we've got to keep up with the Joneses. They play upon what the result of the split was when we were split, and we no longer had our other half. Well, we had to create that other half, and that's that form of the ego, that mental voice in our head that tells us, why we can't be great and why we have to conform to society. That little voice in our head that anyone that's ever read The Power of Now or Eckhart Tolle tells you that keeps you from being all you can be. Okay? So, the people that keep us in high school, in this metaphysical high school, they know what they're doing, okay? But now, and their power goes back a long way, and it also works on the metaphysical. They have it on the physical, and then there's the bad. Just like we have good people in our world and good aliens, and we have the good God and the good Christ and good Buddha. Well, they have the bad stuff. They have their Lucifer, their Satan, their Demerge, their bad aliens, their reptilians, the Greys, their agents, and their archons. Okay, and that's a big term, the archons. Archons come from the term anarchy is derived from archons, anti-archon. Okay, archons are those spiritual parasites that feed off negative emotion that our world creates, that basically gives the evil ones like Lucifer and Satan their power. Okay, it's the negative energy that's created through the strife and confusion of this world that's been created by those that control it, that left us this way, that took away our history, that told us that we evolved from apes. That's ridiculous. You don't just grow a voice box. Evolution doesn't account for that. Okay? And how do you find every single skeleton in the world that connects us except for the missing link? Okay? You don't find that. It's because it doesn't exist. And in actuality, according to Lloyd Pye's work, which I highly recommend everyone look up and spend the 2 hours to watch his video to show why everything you were taught in school was wrong, is that there's actually about 16 missing links between us and apes. So we did not evolve from apes, okay? If anything, the Bible story, Adam and Eve, is closer to the truth, okay? It's not really the full truth, but it's closer to it. It's probably best for another discussion.
Ty, I actually have a theory where you're talking about the distraction. I can sum it up in one word. It's called complacency. And if you look up the definition of complacency and how we are so easily controlled, humans are the only creatures on this earth, from God himself, that we're given the ability to reason. And by way of reasoning, we make right and wrong choices. We believe or disbelieve something. We reason away evidence because our minds can't wrap itself around. And that's truly, I'm just, as a whole, this is what the show to me is about, is the ability to receive the evidence of information that you've painstakingly compiled through research of your own, and you have surmised what you feel you have been given from that information. And you've calculated it in your mind, and you've used your reasoning to believe or disbelieve some or all or none of what you have read, and by that you gain your knowledge and you surmise the situation. And the reason I'm saying this is these parties that you speak of, these beings, the evil entity, know full well that very thing, reasoning, can be controlled to a degree that they manipulate media, manipulate curriculum, they manipulate everything that you see in order to draw you into that complacency by distraction or mental masturbation, whether it be direct or subliminal. That's why we find ourselves where we are today. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I largely agree. And that's my point, is that the whole system's set up that way. I mean, it was commandeered.
Right.
Yeah, there's complacency, but it's also mostly ignorance. There's fear. There's, they start early. Early child, that's what compulsory education's about. It doesn't teach you anything. It teaches you how to obey. And so they have us basically on a lot of different directions. Just about every facet of your life has been commandeered and pointed toward an agenda that's away from true spiritual growth and realization of truth and basically the ultimate salvation of humanity. Okay?
You're correct.
So it is tough. It takes that fiery intelligence, that type of person, like for instance, the three of us, that would even care to even give this type of attention. But then there's also the whole thing of time. I mean, I imagine if I would have had your normal 40-hour work a week and a family with 3 kids and everything, that I couldn't have spent all those years studying and researching. You know, that's not what life had for me. I didn't consciously choose that direction, but that's kind of the way the direction took me and afforded me opportunities, and I tried to take advantage of what was given to me. And then when I feel comfortable, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, dear.
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead, finish your sentence, and then I'll share something with you.
Yeah, so I feel compelled, you know, once I start feeling like, okay, I'm starting to get a grasp of something here and starting to definitely, you know, distinguish a pattern of truth, you know, then I'm willing to share it with anyone that wants to ask me. But to be clear, I am not a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm not a Scientologist. I do not force my beliefs on anybody. If you want to know what I think, just ask.
I agree completely. We did a show a couple of months ago, and I felt compelled to do it. So I feel that I do what I do because I am being led by the Spirit of the Lord, period. I mean, I walk without fear. I'm not afraid to live. I'm not afraid to die. I'll fight a big bear. There's 2 things that I'm not actually show fear for, and that's snakes and spiders. I hate the word both.
Me too.
They're sneaky little bastards. That's why. I did a show on the definition of subordination, or the word subordinate, and its function, and one on complacency and one on fear, and they all go hand in hand with control, and that's what we're seeing. And reason comes into play there because we reason in our mind why we do or don't do anything, you know. And timing, you're correct. I mean, is it time for me to go to the bathroom and pee, or can I hold it a little bit longer and finish doing what I'm doing? You know, we think logistically on so many issues that we really don't understand and don't pay attention to. But complacency is a feeling of quiet pleasure or security, often while unaware of some potential danger, defect, or the like. Self-satisfaction or smug satisfaction with an existing situation, condition, etc. And this is why I brought that up, because as a whole you were speaking on the evils of the world, if you will, and the control and things of that nature. And I was compelled to do this show on fear, complacency, and subordinate simply because we're so classified, upper, lower, you know, middle class. They use the same tactics when they put a military person in the military. From a boot camp throughout their tenure, they are a subordinate to someone. And if you read the definition of subordination or subordinate, you get what I'm saying if you didn't know. And I'm talking to the listeners, not in particularly you, because obviously you're a bright individual. But they all play a role, and the mind is a powerful thing. And we choose or reason what we do or don't believe. And of course, if it's a tangible thing, it's much easier to understand than something that is non-tangible. And I think that we've spoken to some degree about the non-tangible things of this world as beings, have we not?
Yes. That's exactly what I was referring to. Because, all right, because you know, you got to think about what the heck is possessing our world leaders like this. What is going on there? You see the insanity of it all. Anything from chemtrails to just constant war without evidence. I mean, just unprovoked, just one thing after another. I mean, even if it was so they could just have it for themselves, I mean, it sure seems like they're destroying, you know, whatever paradise they might make for themselves. I mean, that's insanity. Even if they just want to control all of us, it sure seems like they're ruining it for themselves. And my point to that is that they are literally being possessed by these archons. All right, they are psychopaths, but we all have this, you know, just like we all have the ability to be Christed, we all have the ability to be sort of possessed, to have these controlling influences. Anybody that wallows in misery and negativity all their life is basically a delicacy for these entities. So
you're correct.
Pardon me?
You're correct. You are correct.
Yeah.
And most certainly believe good, you have to believe in evil. If you believe in evil, you must believe in good. Whether you believe in God and Satan or not, the reality is there is good and evil by definition. And they're opposing forces.
That's right. So this is what I want to tie into with these archons, and then really finish up here with what I consider the latest, really good theory on what's really going on with the Greys and their agenda, okay, and what they represent. The Greys are a different kind of alien, and this was actually confirmed by that interview I listened to today. Again, as I wanted to brush up on the latest to see what the latest research is at, and it's really nowhere. He mentioned Whitley Strieber's Communion, which was comes all the way back from late 80s or something like that, and he couldn't even get through that book. It was so intense for him. And this is a man that's believes he's been visited and communicated with aliens, so he knows Whitley Strieber's work is pretty authentic. Now, I've been through most of Strieber's work up until the mid 90s, and it's very profound stuff. But what we're looking at, the pattern there, from my resource, my mentors who access similar types of information the way Edgar Casey did, not the same source and not the same way, but similarly, they believe the Greys are more like insects in mentality. They do not have souls. Okay, they're more like mechanical, like insects that are minions of the Demurge, or basically like archons in the physical form. And both archons and Greys, okay, one's basically the metaphysical version, the other's the physical version, okay, because they don't have souls, they're not creative beings, okay? So that's why you see the same kind of false flag operations being performed over and over again as a way to sort of trick society into changing laws and taking away freedoms. Your 9/11s, your Boston, Sandy Hooks, your Boston Marathon bombing thing. All that, it's basically the same. It's the same protocol. Okay, there's no real creativity here. They're using the same actors, using the same makeup, they're using the same pictures. Okay, because there's no real creativity there, because they really haven't figured any other way. But the goal here is to sort of, for the Greys, they want to become like us. They want to get that soul. That's why there's that crossbreeding. That's so much experimentation in DNA. This is my theory based in Gnostic tradition, according to hints given through Christ and Mary Magdalene, Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, through their Gospels. The Gospel of St. Thomas, which is to mirror Christ's words. Okay, so if we look at it like that and understand, and put it juxtaposed, put it next to all these abductions that have been going around for a long time. And then we also look at what's believed to be the deal Eisenhower cut with these aliens that said, traded technology for them to be allowed to abduct us, okay, because they had to get permission. Now, they didn't get permission from you or me. They got permission from what was considered our elected leader. And, for the dark side or the evil side, that's kind of all they need. All right, so that's kind of where we're at with that. So what they're trying to do is get that element, that special thing that makes us human, that soul, that vehicle that we have, this ability to greatly change a soul from a low level of existence, the lower self, into this great Christed being, this being of light that can live for hundreds, thousands of years, even in existence here, the way ancient texts suggest, Atlanteans and the Emerald Tablets from Thoth all said that, You think, 70 years now is a long life? We used to live 700 years. But DNA can be tampered with and manipulated. And you just said it about the Monsanto and what they're using to manipulate more DNA and kill us slowly. They have to kill us that way in order to avoid an uprising. If we all were aware of it, 7 billion of us, well, we could probably take out the Illuminati and the powers that be pretty quick. So they kind of have to do it in a slow, drawn-out fashion so not to draw, too much attention. And so it falls upon people like you and me in these forums where mostly it's just other people like you and me listening to it, and most of mainstream society thinks we should all have, tinfoil wrapped around our heads. Picture us like that when we're anything but that, So it's frustrating, but that's kind of how it all ties in together. That's kind of really where the grays are at. That's the whole thing. Anarchy is actually a good thing. Central government has proven to be a bad thing. Anarchy is more about anti-archon and more about the ruling of yourself, having true rule of your body. Who rules you? Your ego? Well, your ego is controlled by the material world and by the stuff that's really not conducive to the graduation of your soul. So if you're controlled by how much money you're going to make and how big your car is and keeping up with the Joneses, well, then you're just exactly what they want. But
right, because that's control of feeling, and feelings can be both good and bad. Fear is a feeling. It penetrates the person's psyche by an impending danger or evil or whatever. If the threat is either real or unreal, it doesn't matter. That condition or that feeling is still there. And feelings of elation are feel-good to the body and to the mind and to the spirit. And so those are the things that are pleasing. And I know that's getting a little deep, maybe even for some of the listeners out there, but you just struck a point right there. That is the cause and the root cause of all things begin with a feeling.
Well, yeah, but the one thing I want you to kind of reverse there, the one thing that I want to make a point of, and this is the important part. This is really the great stuff, and I'm glad you brought it up. Is you can't have a feeling without a thought first. Now think about that. That is a very profound thing. That's a very profound statement. So in other words, if you learn to control what you think and how you think, you will learn to control how and what you feel. And that's important because, let's face it, we're all a bunch of emotional messes out there. I mean, put anybody in traffic and you cut someone off and that's it. World War III is about to start. You know what I mean? It's because there's no control of thought there. There's just like, oh my God, he disrespected me and I'm going to get him. And my feelings just take over me. It's because there's no, thought first, because we weren't trained at an early age, at a time when, that's what's so great about, learning true spirituality and understanding the ego within you. When you teach a kid at an early age how to do that and then grow into that kind of adult, then he actually becomes an adult. Because let's face it, most people aren't adults. They're grown up. They're not adults, okay? Adult is a different thing. That's a different word.
Then they react on critical thinking skill rather than emotional reaction to an event, which is only a motivated feeling, whether negative or positive. It's a motivated feeling.
That's right.
And then they use the reasoning, which can be used for good, or it can also be something of detriment, and they react. They reason why. Well, he disrespected me. I have the right to kill him. Now you've reasoned with yourself.
That's right, yeah.
So, I mean,
exactly.
It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
good
man,
stuff,
I
Becky.
really enjoyed my conversation with you. I really, really do. There's a lot of particles in my mind, and a lot of the listeners don't get to hear that. They get to hear me be a little more hardcore and raging. I believe Wilbur is back on. Wilbur, are you there, brother? 254. Who have I got? They've got their hand up, but they're not answering. Wilbur, are you online? Do you have a question for Chai before we have to wrap up? I'm sorry, Chai. I apologize, brother. I'm not getting an answer.
That's okay. Is there anything else, or anybody else, any other calls out there, any other questions that I can help with? How much time we got here, Bobby? Looks like we got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, we got
about 10 minutes. We got about 10 minutes left.
Good stuff, Chai. Good stuff, brother.
Oh, thank you, Becky.
Yeah, you know what? It's always, every show that we do, I always learn something. And these are the type of shows that I just like kicking back and kind of listening, and trying to absorb more than anything else, because, this is the type of subjects that, I don't know a whole lot about, but I want to learn about. So for me to be able to hear people that know information about it and can share, like me and Becky have been texting each other, and she asked me, she goes, what did you think of that question? And I said that she completely, I forget what word did I use, Becky? Whatever it was. Whatever it was, I was like, she impressed me. I said, that's what I said. She impressed me because I had no idea that she even had any knowledge about anything that we're talking about. I thought we were both going to be sitting here, not knowing too much about it, and it's the exact opposite of that, and I'm glad to know that.
Oh, great.
Yeah, there's more than meets the eye. Trust me. I'm a diversified individual. I'm one hot cougar, and at this point, I've painted myself as a coffin dodger, not by age, but by notoriety.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Becky.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've spent like you, I've spent so many hours in so many different subject matters. The mind is like a sponge, and when it goes dormant, it becomes lazy. At some point, you lose your capacity to learn. You lose your retention, and so I'm like a little sponge. I'm like that informative child at the age of 4. Man, I just want to know as much as I can.
Yep, that's what's great. That's what's so great about truly being on a path, and really understanding and gaining that awareness level, and knowing that as far as you've come, you realize you have so much further to go, and it's great though. Yeah. It's an exhilarating feeling. Yeah, there's a little fear there, but the excitement, anxiety far outweighs it, and at this point you get to a point where you get past that line and you never want to go back, and you don't care what people think and or what they'll if they like you or not. You just no longer care. You become your own person, and that alone makes you an attractive individual.
Hey, thank you. Knowledge is like a crackpot for me. So when somebody calls me a crackhead because they think I'm just off the mark,
God.
It's a compliment, because, that's my crack. That's my heroin. Knowledge is a powerful thing, and if used correctly in any arena, you're assured victory. So, for the listeners out there, if I can impart any wisdom to you at all in my conversation, I definitely want to leave you with that.
That's great.
Right.
Yeah. I'd say that the big one I like to always say is that, they're I'm a weirdo, so everyone's laughing at me, and I go, but that's okay, because they're all the same, so I'm laughing back at them.
I know, right? Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that, I'm a devout Christian. I have my reasons why I believe Scripture, why I believe God exists, why I received Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I'll be real brief. A lot of my listeners already know this, and so does Bobby and any of my family. I was actually on my deathbed, and I had been suffering long with a brain tumor for 18 months. I was ashen, pasty. I slept maybe 2 hours a night, and I was no longer praying to be healed. And let me tell you something, I spent a lot of time in the Word, reading healing scriptures and trying to understand the Word. And with the brain tumor, that was a very difficult task for me to do, along with the sleep deprivation. But long story short, I had finally succumbed to the fact that they were probably going to have to do the surgery. I had rebuked that, and I had been on holistic medicines. I kicked myself off the steroids because they made me feel like my heart was going to burst and I was blowing up like a blimp. And I would not take chemotherapy or any traditional medicine, but I finally resolved myself to the fact that I was going to have to do this because I was actually hoping I would die on the operating table. I was no longer fighting to live as I felt my flesh leaving me. I wanted to die. So now I'm praying to die. And oddly enough, in the middle of prayer, right before a doctor's appointment to go to oncology and neurology, I had to go through a bunch of testing. I was healed in the middle of a prayer, and the Lord spoke to me, and he said this. In the middle of that prayer, he said this, I heard you the first time. And when he did, I just accepted it. I accepted it. It was part of my prayer to him, and I would get so angry and cuss at him and be, my emotions were broken down, was why can't I hear from you? I just need to know where I'm going to be. I'd just gotten saved before I got sick. And I went to the doctor, the same doctor I'd been to the day before. He couldn't see the tumor when he looked in my eye. I wasn't deaf in my ear anymore. I didn't have double vision, dizziness, vertigo, any of that. And I had my reflexes had returned to my body. They were shot to shit, period, the day before. And the doctor, after the testing, I passed all the tests, 100%. He came in, looked in my eye, did the tuning fork, checked my reflexes, scratched his head, leaned back, and he said, Becky, I can't understand this. He said, everything I saw in you yesterday is not present today. The color's back. He passed every test. He said, I can't explain it. I can't see the tumor when I look in your eye. And I said, let me tell you what happened to me at 5:30 this morning. My appointment was at 8:30, by the way. So it was just 3 hours before my appointment. So, see, I have felt God and I've heard God. And therefore, I know that he is, in fact, God. And I know that he's greater than I am, and I know that everything that I have and everything that I do is not of my own accordance, but only because it was his will for me to be or to do. And so I really feel like at this point in this journey of life that I've been appointed to do certain things, and this is one of them. I so much adversity in my life, and here I am.
Well, you know what? Let's get ready to close it out because we only got 3 minutes left, and I want to be able to get to a couple things before the whole thing gets shut down. But yeah, I mean, I think that this was a great show. I mean, lots and lots of good information to learn, for a lot of people. And, I don't know why a lot more people weren't asking questions. I mean, we have plenty of people sitting online that, that were sitting there listening. So, I don't know why.
Bobby,
huh?
I really people who are not real knowledgeable, a little apprehensive to jump into the arena.
Yeah.
But I know they
absolutely.
came away. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, but I'm just, I'm completely, I think that it was a great show. I think it was very knowledgeable. I mean, I learned stuff I know other people did too. And like you said, maybe people just, they didn't know enough about it. Maybe they just didn't want to jump in because, they felt that they were going to embarrass themselves because they didn't know enough or whatever the case may be. That's never the case here, folks. Okay? We're just, average, everyday people trying to teach and learn at the same time. I mean, if we can teach you something and we can share information with you that will help you learn something, you could do the same to us. You're probably going to end up telling me something today, that I didn't know anything about and that I can actually do my homework on. Well, we like to tell people, don't take our word for anything. Okay? Go out there, study it, look it up, do your homework on it. Don't, just because we're telling you something, don't go, oh, okay, so that means that blah, 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 and you're agreeing to everything that we're saying. There might be something that, we were mistaken about or something that wasn't right or something that was very debatable. By all means, we want people to look it up. We want people to get the information and to learn about whatever we're talking about. So maybe they can share the information with somebody else, with somebody else, and with somebody else, and, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
I agree, brother. Only one thing to say to that.
Oh, God. She's got her little toy out.
Is it the roar of the crowd?
Yeah, but I really, really appreciate you joining us today. You know, it's an honor, and you know, we would love to have you on here more often. Just like I was telling you about Tom Luju from Bunker Report. I mean, the other day we had him on, and the phone lines were just completely, you know, crazy, and we had, I don't even remember, it was over 1,000 people listening live. I mean, it was just, it was sick. The numbers were sick on the show. And, you know, like I said, a lot of people ask us about you, and a lot of people ask us about him. Hey, you know, when are these people going to be back on and stuff? So, I mean, you know, if the demand is there, and, you know, it would be awesome, you know, if eventually somehow we could get you to where maybe, you know, maybe you were doing your own show, you know, one day a week or something like that, or maybe one day every 2 weeks or one day a month, whatever. Just, you know, just to be able to get on and, you know, and teach people and, you know, help people learn, you know, more about whatever, you know, whatever is the hot topic, I guess, at the time, or about history itself, and, you know, take it from there. I mean, you know, we're always trying to add good hosts and, you know, people that have something, you know, to teach. That's for sure. So, but I appreciate you joining us.
Bobby, I have a question for Chai before he has to go. Hey, Chai, I didn't get to ask you this. Have you ever read In Days to Come by Ashtar? I believe that's her pen name. I believe it's Ethel P. Hill.
What's the name of it?
The book is In Days to Come. I-N.
Oh, In Days to Come.
Yeah,
In Days to Come. In Days to Come. Yeah, I'm aware of it. I heard of it. I haven't read it. No. Why? What about it?
Well, no, it's got some good stuff in it, and there's a lot of reference to what you said today in her writings.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, I'm going to send a link to Bobby, and I'll have him forward that to you in a text so you can kind of check it out.
That would be great. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm sorry, Bobby. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to get that in. I forgot to ask him.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all.
All right.
So
well, Bobby,
I would love to come back. I'm more at the very, as far as frequency, I think that at the most once a month. I don't know, people could get sick of me really quick, but I think I have. I definitely have more to share. All these subjects that I touched upon, I really tried to jump around a lot and give the audience a good perspective, a general broad view on how a lot of this stuff, a lot of the let's say the phenomenal stuff kind of ties in together. But make no mistake, we could take any of those subjects, especially Gnosticism and Jesus and the true history and Mary Magdalene and all that, and the Essenes. We can do a more focused show on that sometime. Becky seems to know how to ask some of the right questions, and I know Bobby already does too. So yeah, that'd be great. Just keep me up to date. If any listeners have questions that you want to get to me, I'd love to get them. If they email them to you, I know I'm kind of hard to find, and that's no accident, people. I kind of make myself hard to find right now, but eventually I'll put up a site that'll be more accessible. But for right now, if anybody has any questions that I can answer through email, then I would say send them to the show, either Bobby or Becky, and don't get it to me, and then I'll be happy to write out some answers to anyone that's interested. It'd be my pleasure.
All righty. Well, we appreciate you joining us, and, you know, we will definitely be in touch. And I'm working tomorrow, but I'll give you a call maybe Sunday, and maybe you can come by so we can straighten out on...
That's right, Mr.
On the, yeah. on the fantasy stuff still, fantasy football
you got
stuff.
it. You got it.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people are going to be like, what? What the hell are they talking about? You know,
I'm hoping Jim's going to cut that out, right? He's going to cut that part out, edit that part out.
Yeah, right. I doubt it. Okay. All right. So, all righty. So we will, until next time. So, so that's it, everybody. That's been Shy Townsend. You know, we don't really have to tell you a whole lot about him. I mean, you know, he's one of those type of people. I mean, he's got, you know, a ton of information. We love having him on. You know, he's just a wealth of knowledge, and you know, it's always a pleasure to have him on. And you know, everybody gets to pretty much learn something. So that's about it. We're going to do a show tomorrow. We're not sure who the guest is going to be. We're trying to get a guest. I don't know if Becky actually was able to put somebody together as of yet. But that's really about it. So, what, you got anything to add, Becky? Or?
Yeah, you know what, brother? I need to add this. I love you, man. I do, and I appreciate everything you do for us because I know this comes out of your pocket. I know that you dedicate a lot of time to it, and you're working on a real heavy workload and a home life, a wife, and a couple of kids. And you know what? God bless you, brother. I just want you to know that you make a difference in our lives, and I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that. All righty. Well, until tomorrow, everybody, we have here been your host, and this has been Rage Against the Regime Radio.